Have you noticed there's a lot of talk about investing into foreign indexes in the US equity markets? You must be hearing a lot of financial advisors talking about it, a lot of broking platform promoting invest in US markets, US stocks, or investing into diversifying into foreign equities, and new fund offers are also coming on that sense. So now I want to talk about, firstly, should you or should you not invest in foreign markets? That's first. Second, if you were to invest, how should you invest? What should be the strategy? How would you go on executing it? We have understood how to invest in India. Now let's talk about investing in all the rest of the other bigger economies in the world. So let's first start with, should you or should you not invest? In your opinion, what do you think? Should you invest in foreign equities or not? Should one diversify their investments into foreign markets or only invest in India? So here is the thing. Do emerging markets make more money or developed markets? Or the growth percentage? Do you think the growth of emerging markets or developing economies is higher, or developed economies, which are already, we already know, right? It is emerging markets. So when we are talking about, first I'm going to talk about fundamentally, okay? So you understand the concept, what are we doing? When we're talking about emerging markets or developing economies, we're talking about India. So one of a good indicator to look at the growth of a certain economy is their indexes, their lead indexes. So they might not depict the correct picture in a short term, but in a long term, they always do that. Yes, we all agree. In a long term, in a 5-year, 10-year basis, 20-year basis, just looking at the chart of the index will tell you how the economy is doing. Yes. When you want to look at the state of an economy over a 10, 15, 20-year basis, if you just look at the growth or the chart of the index, you will know how the country is doing. Because what is the index representing? Economy, or you can say the top 30, top 100, top 50, top 500, or top whatever number of stocks or the biggest companies of that economy, which is driving the economy, which is listed on the stock exchange, right? So predominantly you're looking at the biggest companies of that country on which you expect the economy to grow and whose performance is clearly visible in the chart of the index. Now, when we're talking about investing in US or Indian indexes or China or Indian indexes or any country for that matter, let's understand a few things. India is a developing economy. The growth rate of our indexes is always going to be higher on a long-term basis. When I say long-term, I'm saying 10 years. Is always going to be higher than the foreign markets. The only way for you to make more money than the Indian indexes is invest in other emerging economies. But IMF has said that India is in the brightest spots in the world today, and we are likely going to become a top 3 economy in the next 15-20 years at the pace at which we're going. So China and India will be the world superpowers and US will not be there anymore. This is the predictions of all the economists in the world because the rate of growth is higher. So should you be investing in foreign economies, especially US? I don't think so, because if you look at the last 20-25 years data, you will see that the rate of growth of Sensex and Nifty is more than Nasdaq, S&P or Dow Jones. That's one. Second thing is, still, I believe that you can and should diversify on opportunities, not in SIPs. Understand this, what I'm saying again. When I say invest into indexes, we don't put all the money in one go, do we? We invest on every month-on-month basis so that we're able to average out the ups and bottoms of the stock markets. Now, when you're doing this for the US markets or any other country's market, you can diversify. There's nothing wrong in diversification. But the diversification should be not done in a SIP format. It should be done in a lump sum format. Do you know why should you invest in lump sum, not SIP? When you're doing SIP, you are betting that this will outperform the other. But fundamentally, we know that this does not happen, and past data also tells us that this will not happen. So last 20 years, 30 years history tells us that the Indian indexes are growing faster. And fundamentally, we also know it will continue to do faster grow faster because we're an emerging economy, we're a developing economy, we are one of the top growth rate economies in the world, and we will likely going to be in the top 3 in the next 20-30 years to come. So from that perspective, fundamentally makes no sense. Factually, it does not make any sense, but still we can use this as a tool of diversification, but we can do it as a tactical call. So what are tactical calls for people who don't know? Tactical calls are those investment decisions where you invest into an asset, a new asset or an existing asset. You invest more money into it, or first time you invest into it, either way, but you're investing at a certain point in a lump sum format to say from here the market is going to rebound. You should be investing into the US equities as a tactical investment, not as a SIP, because it consistently will not beat. Okay. Now, what are the options? How would you go about investing if you get a tactical call? So would you like to know the options that are available? There are three ways of doing it. Okay, three ways of doing it. The first, the most impractical one. You take $250,000 or less. That's the maximum limit as per the liberalized scheme. LRS is what they call it. You move your money out of India. So you take your rupees, convert it into dollars, open a broking account out of India. Then from that broking account, a foreign broking account, you invest into the US markets. You can invest in US stocks directly doing so. Second method is that you tie up with Indian brokers in India and they will help you invest sitting at home in your own broking account to invest into the foreign markets. That's the second method to do it. The third method to do it is that you are able to buy the ETFs of the foreign indexes in your own existing broking account without having to shift your money, without having to convert your money, without having to go through any of this hassle, without having to use the LRS method. So the first one does not make any sense because when you move your money out of India, you would know, and I hope that you know this fact, that in India, CDSL and NSDL are two depositories or two security vaults where all of your holding of your DMAT goes. How many of you know that? That when you buy something in your DMAT account, and as long as it is linked with NSDL or CDSL, your money is moving from there and going into that security vault, which is also the same place where the Employee Provident Fund Organization money goes. Okay, this is a necessity if you have a DMAT account. Otherwise, you are planning for your DMAT account, your company to go bust and you lose all the money. Is there such a mechanism in that country or in that place from which you're going to invest from? Very likely no. So when you're not able to control, when you don't have enough regulation integrity, or you do not understand the regulation integrity, or maybe it applies or does not apply to you, don't even know that, there's no point of going for the first method, which is the most impractical one. Now let's talk about the second method. What if you can use Indian platforms to invest in the foreign indexes? So would you like to know an example of one such company who does that? What you're seeing on the screen right now is a company called Vested, VESTED. So this company will help you to invest. You can start investing. This is a platform even NRIs can use. So how do you do it? So this is a few benefits of Vested fractional share investing. No minimum balance. You can withdraw anytime, create an account in minutes. Another thing is, now this is where it gets tricky. This is where it gets tricky. How secure is this? They are saying they're using a SSL certificate, which is not a big deal. SSL, I also have SSL certificate on my Ask the Wise Guy website, on which there's no transaction happening. So you just have to invest in 3,000-4,000 rupees a year and get SSL certificate. It's not a big deal. It's not the security of the platform, but the security of the place where your money is going, something they haven't answered yet. What if it shuts down? So they're explaining what happens, that they're saying Security Investor Protection Corporation will secure $500,000. That's the security they are claiming that it gives. How will the taxation work? You can go through that. Is it actually legal? I'm sure it is. Now, this is where it is the worst part. How can I verify the ownership? The share ownership verification works slightly different in the US than in India. Shares are held in third-party custodian in the street name of the broker rather than the underlying investor. So your asset is not under your name, which is something that really scares me. So that format is not something I am comfortable with, which is why I would not suggest you, although these are good options to invest, but I am not very sure of the security of capital, which is my bigger concern than the growth of the capital. I'm more concerned about the security of the capital. Even HDFC facilitates something like this called the global investing. Again, you can invest in 3,500 US equities and again, streamlined process of transferring funds in US dollars. So again, you're remitting money out of India predominantly. That's a problem. Again, that's a problem. There is a benefit to it as well, because the price of the dollar eventually goes up 2 or 3%, but that's on a 5-year, 2 or 3% every year on a 5 to 10 year basis. Again, maybe you're not investing for that long, so you might or might not get the benefit of that. So I am in that school of thought that I can be aggressive in the places where I know the risks it is a complete gamble if you do not even understand the risk. So investing carries risk. We all know that, but we still invest. Why? Because we're able to comprehend the risk and understand the risk, and then see, is this risk good enough for me? Is this a good risk return ratio? But when we're talking about investing in the foreign markets or places where you do not understand the risk in the first place, or the format through which you're investing, you don't understand the risk of that. That to me is a gamble, because something you don't understand and you're putting your money in is just hoping that it will work well for you until it does not. And do you know, even in India, almost 20 brokers have gone bust in the last 12 months? Do you know that? 20 brokers, including Karvy. Karvy was not a small broker. People who had invested in Karvy and did not have their accounts linked with CDSL and NSDL have lost their money. So if it can happen in India, it's already happening in India, why would you want to take a foreign entity risk? This is the other concern that I saw. Okay, hear me out. Now, what if you can invest in India using an ETF or an index-based mutual fund? Would that be good? Amongst all of these, this looks like the safest, right? It's only my account. Investing in India, just like you buy the ETF of Nifty, what if you're able to buy the ETF of US markets? What if you're able to buy index fund of US markets or China markets? So that is what I'm about to show next to you. Okay, so I'm going to take you back to my screen. Let's have a look at this. So there is two funds that I've identified, and these are not the only ones, but these look relatively better than most to me currently. So there is Motilal Oswal S&P 500 Index Fund, a direct plan, obviously, because we are only talking about investing directly. In this sense, look at the minimum investment is just 500 rupees. Minimum withdrawal is 500 rupees. There is an exit load of 1% if redemption is done in 15 days. I'm sure you're not investing for 15 days in indexes, which is obviously the whole point. This fund is relatively new, because if you look at the date of inception, it has not even completed a year yet. Okay, so since inception, it has gone up by 28% because the US markets are only going up in the last 1 year. And some good aspects about this is the expense ratio is just 0.5%, which is quite competitive if I look at it. And they have almost 1,000 crore of asset. So the asset base is not as big as I would like to see. At least it should be upwards of 2,000 crores. But I believe it's a relatively new fund. It will rather garner that sort of asset very soon. So this is something that I liked. But this is an index fund. Now, there is another option that is available called Motilal Oswal Nasdaq 100 ETF. So this is a more better way of investing. So how has this done? Over the last 7 years, this was launched in 2011. So it's been 7 years. 7-year return is 22%, 5-year return is 25%, 3-year return is 26%. Last 1 year, it has gone up by 74%. It's crazy. It has almost 3,000 crores in asset management and 0.5% in expense ratio, which is pretty good. So 0.54 is expense ratio, good asset size, great returns, and it is an ETF. There is no restrictions on buying and selling. You can do whenever you would like. So looking at that looks very, very much lucrative. So again, I've shared one index mutual fund and one index ETF. Do I recommend SIP into this? No, I don't. The reason why, the same philosophy that I was telling you, that they might have done well in the last 3 years or 5 years, but when we're investing into indexes, we are looking at the future, not in the past. And if you look at the future of India, it is much brighter than US. If you look at the growth rate of India, is much better than the US. The same thing has been confirmed by IMF and many other economists. And also, so if you look at the very long history of India, the data will tell you that not in the 5 years, but in the 15, 20 or 10-year basis, Indian indexes are outperforming the US ones.